Okay, let's talk about capitalism. There's this huge contradiction at its heart, right? On one hand, it's created more wealth than anything in human history. But on the other hand, you've got so many people, especially younger folks, who feel like the whole system is just broken. So today, we're going to dig into that. What was the original promise, and where did the peril come from?
I mean, think about it. For literally centuries, capitalism has been this incredible engine for progress. We're living in an age of unbelievable abundance. So why? Why do so many of us feel totally left behind, completely shut out from all that prosperity?
To really get what capitalism promised, you got to focus on one number, 2%. 2%. Doesn't sound like a lot, does it? But that's been the average growth in what each person produces every single year since the Industrial Revolution. And that, right there, is its superpower. That little 2% doubles our standard of living about every 35 years. That is a massive, massive deal.
All right, so let's look at capitalism's original promise. How was this all supposed to work for everybody? Because the original idea, the core promise, wasn't just about making a few people rich. It was supposed to be a system for lifting everyone up. And the way it was designed to do that was through this really cool self-reinforcing cycle.
They call it the virtuous cycle. Here's how it's supposed to go. Step 1, you get these massive leaps in productivity from new technology. Now, this is the crucial part. Step 2, those gains give workers the power to organize and demand better pay. Step 3, that creates shared prosperity. People have more money, which funds public goods, schools, roads, hospitals. And then step 4, all those workers with more money in their pockets create way more demand for products, which, you guessed it, fuels even more growth. See how it works? It's a loop where everyone benefits.
And you know what's wild is that this isn't some fringe anti-capitalist idea. Not at all. The sources we're looking at point out that even early libertarian thinkers saw organized labor as a key part of the whole machine. The idea of workers getting their fair slice of the pie, that wasn't a bug in the system. It was a feature. It's what made the whole engine run smoothly.
So, what went wrong? I mean, if the system was built with this beautiful, virtuous cycle baked right in, where did things go off the rails? Why does that original promise feel so completely broken for so many people today?
Okay, to figure this out, we can use a really simple but powerful framework. See, any economic system has to answer 3 basic questions. 1, how do we make stuff? 2, what stuff do we decide to make? And 3, who gets the stuff we make? And if you look at the answers our system gives today, well, that's where you start to see all the cracks.
All right, let's take that first question. How are products made? This is really all about the rules of the game. Who's writing the rulebook, and who are those rules written for?
Well, today, the answer is pretty clear. The rules are often written by the biggest, most powerful players. There's a term for it, regulatory capture. It's basically like letting the foxes guard the henhouse. The very industries that are supposed to be policed end up controlling the police. And what do you get? Weaker protections for workers, weaker protections for the environment. The whole playing field gets tilted in their favor.
Okay, on to question 2. What products are we actually making? What does our economy decide is important enough to produce?
And boy, the answer to this one really shows the disconnect, doesn't it? Our economy doesn't produce what people need. It produces what people with money buy. It follows purchasing power. And what does that look like in the real world? It means we've got plenty of yachts and mega condos, but affordable housing and basic health care? Good luck. They're becoming harder and harder to find for millions.
And that leads us to the final question, maybe the most important one of all. After all is said and done, after everything is made, who gets what?
The answer here is just stark. Inequality has absolutely exploded. You've got CEO pay soaring to hundreds of times what their average employee makes. Meanwhile, for most regular folks, wages have been stuck in the mud, completely failing to keep up with the cost of, well, everything. That virtuous cycle we talked about, it's been flipped on its head into a vicious one, where pretty much all the rewards get funneled straight to the top.
Now, this is where it gets really interesting, because here's a point that gets missed all the time. This isn't just about what's fair. The sources we're drawn from make this incredibly powerful argument that this kind of extreme inequality is actually bad for the economy. It doesn't grow the pie, it shrinks it for everyone.
Let's run a little thought experiment to see why. Picture 2 tiny economies. In economy A, you've got one household with $2 million and 4 others with just 10 grand each. Sure, the rich family buys some stuff, but there's a limit, right? The other 4 can barely make rent. Consumer demand is just weak. Now look at economy B. All 5 households have a solid $50,000 each. What happens? They're all buying groceries, paying for services, maybe taking a small vacation. Demand is super strong, businesses are doing well, and the whole economy grows.
So the takeaway here is huge. Higher equity isn't just morally fairer, it's economically smarter. Having a big group of people who can actually afford to buy things, that's the real engine of a healthy, growing economy.
And this whole problem has been kicked into overdrive recently. You take modern technology, you mix it with weak regulations, and you've basically put inequality on steroids. It's created what economists call a winner-take-all economy.
Just think about it in your own life. Music streaming, right? A handful of global superstars get almost all the plays, while thousands of local artists can't make a living. Or shopping. Amazon and Walmart can crush local mom-and-pop shops because of their scale. And now, you see it with AI and automation. They're getting rid of jobs, and all the money saved goes straight into the pockets of shareholders. It's a system where tiny advantages can snowball into total, crushing dominance. So when a new technology like AI comes along and creates a ton of new value, where does it go? Well, right now, it's being captured almost entirely by shareholders as profit. Meanwhile, what happens to worker wages? They stay flat, or worse. So, from where you're standing as an employee, it feels like you're losing. But from the boardroom, it just looks like another great quarter.
But here's the thing, and this is so important to remember. It does not have to be this way. The way things are run in the US right now, that's not the only kind of capitalism. There are other models out there, other ways to set up the rules that are just as competitive, just as innovative, but are a whole lot more fair.
I mean, just look at the Scandinavian countries. We're talking about places with vibrant capitalist economies. This is where Spotify and IKEA come from, right? But the rule book is just different. Most workers are in strong unions. They pay high taxes, but that money funds amazing universal services like healthcare and education for everyone. They have tough regulators that stop monopolies from forming. Now, it's not a perfect system. It has its own trade-offs for sure, but it just goes to show you can have different priorities.
And it all comes down to this one simple, powerful idea. Capitalism must serve society, not the other way around. The economy is a tool to make life better for people, not the other way around. That's the fundamental difference.
So where does that leave us? With a pretty powerful conclusion, actually. The question for our time is not whether we should just abandon capitalism altogether. The real question is, how do we fix it? How do we reform it so it can finally deliver on that original promise of prosperity for everyone, not just for a handful of people at the top?
And we really need to figure this out, because when you get right down to it, this is what's truly at stake. An economic system can get through a recession. It can survive all sorts of shocks. But the one thing it can't survive is people losing faith that the game itself is fair. Because when faith in fairness collapses, so too does faith in the system itself.